Native American Hebrew and Greek language comparisons. There are examples of Hebrew customs, characters, beliefs, and language among Native Americans. According to Mormon, they knew how to write in Hebrew and Hebrew customs and beliefs. Mormon 9:33. The Greek language is also compared to the Native American languages of the Indians. The name of the Creeks for man is Iso, and so it is in Hebrew. The same remark could be made with respect to the word Kenwah for Canaan. Jehovah they call Yehovah. The roof of the house they call Tubenora. In the Hebrew it is Debinor. The nose they call Nechiri in Hebrew, Nahari. The great first cause, Yohewa in Hebrew, Jehovah. Praise the first cause in their language, Hallelujah in Hebrew. Hallelujah. Father they call Abba, the same in Hebrew. Now they call Na in Hebrew, Na. To pray they call Plial in Hebrew, Fala. In their language, Abel is manslaughter. The same in Hebrew, wife, Awa, Ini.
So, one of the things I've always asked, since we've come into the knowledge that we have, when you hear that song, Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya, questions started to arise. Who taught us the Hebrew word Kumbaya? Because don't they tell you, this is something we sang, one of the songs we sang in the fields? Who taught us Hebrew? Remember when they were beating the quote-unquote African language out of you? When did you have time to learn that? Remember, they wanted you to speak English, right? But it's all a farce.
Wife, Awa in Hebrew, Eve, or Eweh. Winter, Korah in Hebrew, Korah. God, Ale in Hebrew, Ale. Or Allahini, a high mountain, Ararat, the same by the Indians of Penobscot. Haywood 1823 pg 282. Silas T. Rand knew several languages to include Hebrew concerning Mi'kmaq Indians. There are also some words in the language which resembles Greek. The Mi'kmaq word Elenu, an Indian, is not very different from Hellene, a Greek. Elenu sit, he speaks Mi'kmaq, is strikingly like the Greek, Hellenize, he speaks Greek. But in other respects the language resembles the Hebrew, especially in the suffixes by which the pronouns are connected in the accusative case with the verb. Silas T. Rand 1893.
And if you remember, there's from one of my videos I did a while back, which I can't see for some reason. I have to actually go on to someone else's YouTube page to see some of my older videos because they don't show up anymore. But one of my older ones, I was using the clip from a Mormon professor who was showing that they now can confirm that the Mi'kmaq were speaking was it the language of Libya, right? But Libya overseas. And I know the Mi'kmaq in Canada, they swear up and down they don't speak any Libyan language, that that's not true. But as you see here, they seem to be really hammering this out, that they are speaking a form of it, whether they admit to it or not.
Their languages are very different and different from Dutch, French, Greek, and Latin. Declension and conjugation resemble those in Greek, for they, like the Greeks, have duals in their nouns and even increases in their verbs. In Mohawk country, early narratives about a native people, Shiloh in Indian is the same as Shiloh in Hebrew. The Indian word for father is Abba. The word for waiter of the high priest is Sagan in both Indian and Hebrew. The word for man in Indian is Shorishi. Adair 1735, Gaspesian, Mi'kmaq Indians. Our Indians agree with the Greeks and Latins in this, that they always use the singular, and even rarely, when they speak to their missionaries, or to some other person of prominence, they express themselves by the word kir karet, which means thou, whether it is the child speaking to his father, the wife to her husband, or the husband to his wife. Clerk 1680 pg. Antipas, name of a general in the bomb. Alma 56, name of a mountain in the bomb. Alma 47-7, 10. It is a Greek name, an abbreviation for Antipater. Archantus, Nephite commander, Moroni 9-2, a typical Greek formation. Made using the Greek prefix arch, great chief, as in the biblical Greek names Archelaus and Archippus. Judea, the name of a Nephite city. Alma 56. 57. It is the Greek, i.e., New Testament, form of the Hebrew name Judah, referring to the tribe, the southern kingdom, and the area of southern Palestine occupied by the tribe of Judah, the Jews. Angola, city name at Mormon 2-4 Greek, Angelos, meaning angel. Mormon 9:33. And if we had enough in the world, Hebrew, but the Hebrew hath been altered by us also. And if we could have written in Hebrew, behold, we would have had no imperfection in our record. In 1735, James Adair lived among the North American Indians for 40 years. He wrote a book about their customs and practices of the Indians. In this book he postulated that the Indians are from the lost 12 tribes of Israel. 1. Their division into tribes. 2. Their worship of Jehovah. 3. Their notions of a theocracy. 4. Their belief in the administration of angels. 5. Their language and dialects. 6. Their manner of counting time. 7. Their prophets and high priests. 8. Their festivals, fasts and religious rites. 9. Their daily sacrifice. 10. Their ablutions and anointings. 11. Their laws of uncleanliness. 12. Their abstinence from unclean things. 18. Their marriage, divorces and punishments of adultery. 14. Their multiple punishments. 15. Their cities of refuge. 16. Their purifications and preparatory ceremonies. 17. Their ornaments. 18. Their manner of curing the sick. 19. Their burial of the dead. 20. Their mourning for the dead. 21. Their raising seed to a deceased brother. 22. Their changes of names adapted to their circumstances and times. About Gaspesian, Micmac Indians, they say that when the sun, which they have always recognized and worshipped their God, created all this great universe, the earth into several parts of the world, one of which is one of many, and one of the following, with their children, who killed one another. The sun wept with grievance thereat, and the rain fell from the heavens in such great abundance that the waters of the mountains and the highest lofty mountains, this flood, which, say they, was general over all the earth, compelled them to set sail in their bark canoes. Clerk 1680 pg 85. To content Mormon bandwagon, sharing your stories about questioning the orthodoxy. Search for Tribe of Manasseh, Hebrew and Native American ties. Posted on October 28, 2015 by Dave Mack. Native American Hebrew and Greek language comparisons. There are examples of Hebrew customs, characters, beliefs and language among Native Americans. According to Mormon, they knew how to write in Hebrew and Hebrew customs and beliefs. Mormon 9:33. The Greek language is also compared to the Native American languages of the Indians. The name of the Creeks for man is Iso, and so it is in Hebrew. The Cherokee belief of a great deluge. A long time ago a man had a dog, which began to go down the river every day and look at the water and howl. At last the man was angry and scolded. Cherokee belief of a great deluge. A long time ago a man had a dog, which began to go down the river every day and look at the water and howl. At last the man was angry and scolded the dog, which then spoke to him and said, "Very soon there is going to be a great freshet and the water will be so drunk. If you want a sign that I would like you to go to the water, speak the truth." Look at the back of my neck." He looked and saw that the dog's neck had the skin worn off so that the bones stuck out. Then he believed the dog and began to build a raft. Soon the rain came back, with plenty of provisions, and they got it all. It was a long time ago, and the water rose until the mountains were covered. Then the rain stopped and the waters went down again, until at last it was safe to come off the raft. There is no one alive but the man and his family. But one day they heard a sound of dancing and shouting on the other side of the ridge. The man climbed to the top and looked over. Everything was still drowned. And then he knew that the ghosts had been dancing. Mooney, 1902, page 261.
And you know something, my very first job, I worked in a watermelon field in South Carolina, in Anderson, South Carolina. This guy had 188 acres of land. 5 of it he built, his house, and his in-laws' house was on. The rest he took and just cleared as much trees as possible, except for like the lines of the property. And it was just rows and rows of watermelon as far as the eye could see, right? And one day, we're out there, we're weeding out the weeds and the thorns so they don't come up and choke the watermelon vines while they were still in their early process. And he's like, you know how I can grow watermelon out here? And I was young, I was like 14, 15. I never really thought about it. And he explained to us that watermelon grows best in sand. And it dawned on me, wait a minute, yeah, there's a lot of sand out here. Did you import it? No. And he explained that, he believed this was proof there had to have been a flood at one time, that a lot of that land in South Carolina was underwater. Now, I'm not saying this is the flood from Noah, but I'm saying this might be something from America being the latest, greatest, the most accurate description of the New World. Because once again, when I look down there at the islands below, was it Jamaica, and they have pyramids under the water, and cities down there and stuff like that. I'm looking at that and I'm like, they didn't build that underwater. Something happened in the recent past to cause the face of the surface of the land, to change. Not just here, but all over. When you see that ring of the Afro-Asiatic women holding hands, facing outward, off the island of Japan, and you can tell they're Afros. Look at their lips, look at their nose, look at their hair. The people of Japan were Afro-Asiatic at one point in time. Look at the last Buddha that came up with no mo renge cho, break the curse upon us. It was, and you see why they don't want to teach that version of the Buddhist religion. Why they took it and they teach the what was taught by what's his name over there, the racist. I can't think of his name. The Dalai Lama. But so I know from first-hand experience, because I've had to dig ditches for power lines and water lines for homes in South Carolina. There's red clay everywhere out there. And granite rock. There's so much granite rock. There's no. How do you explain sand being in the middle of the upstate of South Carolina? Let me see here.
Gaspesian, Micmac Indians, 1-year betrothal and dowry. The one of our Indians who wishes to marry a girl must live on the whole year in the wigwam of his mistress's father, whom he must serve and to whom he must give all the furs of moose and beavers which he kills in hunting. By the same law it is forbidden to the future husband and wife to abandon themselves to their pleasure. Clerk 1680 PG 238. Gaspesian, Micmac Indians, ancient Hebrew belief of a woman being unclean. During your menstrual period, they are still more than likely to know this. They are still observing certain ceremonies of which they are not knowing the origin, giving no other reasons than their ancestors have ever practiced the same thing. The first is this, that the women and girls, when they suffer the inconveniences usual to their sex, are accounted unclean. Clerk 1680 PG 227.
Now, how come they're practicing something they have no knowledge of the origin of, if they've always been these people?